So I was asked today to say something on this most auspicious day of appearance days of Srimati Radharani. But I have to admit to you that this is actually, for me, the most difficult day actually to elaborate on Srimati Radharani. Why? Because being a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, I don't find much from Srila Prabhupada, which he actually himself revealed about Srimati Radharani. If you study his lectures and study his... he was not dwelling on Srimati Radharani as much as he was sometimes explaining other incarnations of Krishna or other forms of Krishna appearing. Why is it so? Because Srimati Radharani is, of course, it's actually Krishna in female form. And the relationship between Krishna, supposedly the male, and Radharani, supposedly the female, is of an entirely transcendental nature. Srila Prabhupada was extremely cautious to comment on this. Like when he was writing Krishna book, where we find actually the most, whatever you want to know about Srimati Radharani, it is basically in Krishna book. When Prabhupada came to the portion of Krishna book, when he is writing that, he slowed down immensely in his writing. So much that the other devotees were wondering. Prabhupada was, there was a kind of competition always. Prabhupada writing, devotees publishing. Prabhupada writing, Prabhupada said, if you don't publish, I will not write. There was always like a tension. And Prabhupada was always ahead of writing. So there was always the publishing was always in a marathon mood. But when it came to the 10th canto, when it came to pastimes, Rasa Leela, pastimes of Srimati Radharani, Prabhupada slowed down immensely. The devotees were wondering what happened. And they asked Prabhupada, is there some problem? And Prabhupada said, no. I have to be now very careful. I have to put everything very carefully. Why? Because, as we know, even we have a practical experience in this material world that it is powered by the tension between male and female. Actually, wherever you look, this is happening. One of my godbrothers, this is not from Prabhupada, but my godbrothers, he made, I don't know if it was a joke or his analytical observation, he said, even in an atom, we find proton and neutron and they are chasing each other. And result, atomic energy. So, I was thinking, this is worth to think about this, why not? But this, whatever they may call it, yin-yang, or whatever they may call it, it is happening all the time. Wherever you look in a material nature, there is a male and female basically chasing each other. And that tension, that creativity which is generated from that, you find that energy being manifested everywhere. But so whatever, 8,400,000 species are multiplying and expanding on that principle. But this is material world. And we call it in a plain words, we call it sex life, in various forms. This is just a perverted reflection of what is going on in a spiritual world. But in spiritual world, the result is completely different, exactly opposite. The tension between Krishna and Radharani is a multiplying, never-ending Ananda Buddhivardhanam. It's never-ending ecstasy. And whereby in a material world you find such a relationship always imploding. Even when I was a small boy, I was wondering how old couples live together. Because where is the love? Where is the romance? Where is the tension? Generally, in a case of old couples, they live together, it can still be there, but it's more like habituation. Yes, you wake up in the morning and there's the same wife, yes, and the relationship is like so, it's so established, it's almost ritualistic, yeah. The husband, she knows he wants now the coffee on the table, and she knows now, and now we go to sleep, yes, and good night, yes, it's all rituals, When you are young, it's not very ritualistic, it's more explosive, So, this is all material world, but in the spiritual world, it's Ananda Bodhivaranam, ever expanding, continuously. So I am not going to, and I am absolutely not entitled to go in details of that. You can read in Nectar of Devotion, you can read in Krishna book, all these rasas, but one thing Prabhupada always very firmly established, this has nothing to do with our material dealings. Because we have a class of people who actually project this into the material world, and they think, oh, it's like the same. Me, Krishna, you, Radharani, dating. Krishna and Radharani, dating. No. This is exactly opposite. So that Prabhupada, over and over, he stressed it very firmly and very carefully described that, so we don't make that mistake. But it's kind of interesting, because we are living in a 180-degree reflection of the spiritual world. It's interesting how these rasas actually are reflected into our lives. One of my godbrothers, I can quote it, being a sannyasi, he was known of being quite accurately commenting and even counseling married couples with their problems. There's some problems always. And I was wondering, he's a sannyasi, he's not married, what does he know about that? And I kind of asked him, how is it possible? And he smiled and he said, don't you read Prabhupada's books? It's all there. He said, don't you read Nectar of Devotion about the transcendental rasas? So you just take it 180 degree and you find it here, reflected. And he said, and most of these rasas, they are not positive, they are negative. Krishna disappears, Radharani is looking for Krishna. Radharani appears, Krishna is enthusiastic, Radharani is not so interested. We find all this in the material world too. Srila Prabhupada once was sitting in Mayapur, and on his table there were 2 flies, one male, one female. I know it from his servant, he told me that, he saw it. And Prabhupada was intensely watching these flies. And the female was, and the male was, and the female stopped, and the male was approaching. And just before it approached the female was going, and the male was going, this was going on the table. The chasing game. But then the male got a little bit tired and he was going, oh, there's no use. And then the female came flying back. And then again he got fired up. I still have a chance. And Prabhupada just smiled. He looked at his servant and he said, it's the same thing everywhere. Doesn't matter which species are you in, it's the same thing. The game is, the rules of the game are basically the same. This is all reflection from the spiritual world. And then my godbrother said, well, I just take it 180 degrees and I know what the problem. And I tell them, this is not crazy, this is not abnormal. Just reflection, that's all. No wonder you are confused, because we are in a material world and we are projecting this into the material bodies. You know, whereby in a spiritual world, they have a spiritual bodies, that's something completely different. Spiritual body is full of knowledge, full of bliss and eternal. Now you look at your body, there's obviously a difference. Full of ignorance, full of pain and temporary. Completely opposite. But we try to do the same thing with that material body. Well, obviously there is a problem. We have a false expectation. Even amongst devotees you find basically the problems are the same. They expect spiritual response from a material body. You know? Used to joke, you know, the wife expects the husband to be a little bit like Vyasadeva, little bit Arjuna, little bit Kuvera, and hardworking, you know? Yeah. There's only one problem, such people don't exist. And he expects the wife to be something of a Saraswati, something of an Apsara, something of this. Well, sorry, such ladies also don't exist. So we are looking for something, expecting something from the material field, which we can find only on a spiritual platform. It's a mistake. So, therefore, speaking about Radharani, we should always remember, this is Krishna in his most intimate form. And the rasas, I can just mention just a few things, okay? We know that when I was visiting Varshana and they told us this story, that was the place where Krishna and Radharani first time met. They were small babies, small children. And Radharani was immediately, the rasa was established already. It was a small girl. When she saw Krishna, she was going like, who is this? And the rich Basis, they were like, well, you have to come together, And Radharani was like, well, I don't want to meet him. And Krishna was immediately enthusiastic. Yes, I want to meet her. So it became that the villages had to push them together. And they wanted that they actually give hands to each other. And Radharani was like, nah, not him. And Krishna was, yes, me, yes, me. Finally, Radharani agreed, okay, but she gave him the hand like this. And Krishna was going, oh, I have to try harder, This is divine couple. But the rasa was there already. And then, we find all this described in Krishna book and Nectar of Devotion and all that. But what we should remember, and what the really important thing is, that all devotional service, which is the goal and the fulfillment of our life, is channeled through, authorized, and blessed by Radharani. Without Radharani's approval and acceptance, Krishna doesn't accept any devotional service. She is the ultimate instance. And anybody trying to serve Krishna has to go through Srimati Radharani. And with her blessing, Krishna accepts immediately. Okay, if Radharani, I like it immediately. Now Radharani is of course very, very merciful. And I always, on this occasion, I have to mention that Srimati Radharani's mercy is of course embodied to us by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. He is for us the embodiment of Radharani's mercy. Why? Well, it started already with his father. who was praying to Radharani, please let my son becoming a great Vaishnava. So on the strength of his prayers, Prabhupada appeared. He may have appeared also for other reasons, but that's part of it. And by the blessing of Srimati Radharani, Prabhupada achieved what he achieved, and by his mercy, we are now sitting here. Otherwise, I don't think Croatia was meant to become Krishna conscious, really. When you look in the history of Croatia, there is no record of people celebrating Radhastami. They were celebrating all kinds of appearance days. Appearance day of Mr. Tito, big celebration. The whole country was celebrating. Mr. Tito appeared. Yeah, definitely an empowered man, but politics. This is just material world. So people know how to celebrate appearance days, but I have to say Mr. Tito is gone. He's finished, he's out. But Radharani is still here. Radharani is celebrated since thousands and thousands of years. And here, domain, Vrindavan, you know that when you come to Vrindavan, people don't go Hare Krishna. They go Radha Radha. And the song we were just singing, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava. Prabhupada said, this is the most intimate song we have. As a matter of fact, he said, in this short song, the whole spiritual world, the whole Vrindavan is there. And it was while singing this song, Prabhupada, you could say, lost control to hide his transcendental ecstasies. That was a very shocking thing for devotees. Nobody ever saw Srila Prabhupada like this. That he was singing Jaya Radha Madhava and he went into such an ecstasy that he couldn't continue. He broke down and started to cry. There was silence. Devotees didn't know what to do. And nobody ever saw him like this. Actually, by chanting Radharani's name. And until one devotee just picked up the Mridanga and was starting Nama Om Vishnu under chanting. He was criticized for that later on. Oh, you interrupted Prabhupada's ecstasy. So he went to Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, when this happens, what shall we do? Prabhupada said, no, you did the right thing. Just chant Hare Krishna. And then he looked like a little boy, mischievous little boy. Prabhupada could look like that. And he said, but I don't do this too often, isn't it? Now, I personally had the wonderful opportunity to witness Srila Prabhupada in this mood. For all these years, I meditated on a street distributing his books, and for me, Prabhupada was the general, I meditated, I'm walking on a beach, and he said, the missing link for the scientist is my foot in your face. That's the missing link. I like that. It's my nature is quite like this. So, I was thinking, this is Prabhupada, Yeah, Prabhupada is ordering, and here we are, Prabhupada's army. And his vocabulary when it came to book distribution and Sankirtan became quite a military type. He said, let's bomb the cities with the books like bombs in the Second World War fell down from the skies. We were like, yeah, let's bomb them all. That was our mood. But last time, third time I saw Srila Prabhupada in London when he came, this was not that kind of Srila Prabhupada. He was not anymore able to hide his, topmost Uttama Adhikari form. Uttama Adhikaris have to do that, because Uttama Adhikari is not a preacher. He sees, Krishna here. You are Krishna, we are all part of Krishna, so what's the use to preach to anybody? We are already part of Krishna. And he sees Krishna everywhere. So what is there to preach? But he comes down to the level of Madhyamadikari, who distinguishes. This is the atheists, this is the demons, this is the devotees, and this is the confused ones. 3 kinds of categories of man. And Srila Prabhupada was criticized for that. You are supposed to be the highest devotee, but you are distinguishing, you are criticizing. Prabhupada actually said, I am not criticizing, I am analyzing. It's a very good point. I have think, that's the mood of a preacher. Preacher is not criticizing, he's analyzing. My dear sir, according to this and this symptoms, and according to this mode of behavior, and according to your consciousness, you are an idiot. It's an analytical study. It's a universal definition of idiot. And it fits according to all the symptoms to you. When you do it in such a non-envious mood, people get shocked. They go, you mean I'm an idiot? I say, yeah, according to Shastra here, it's described here, this is how an idiot looks like. They have sometimes a hard time to argue with that because they think, they know this is not my opinion. I didn't invent this whole thing. No, this is like this. It's like a doctor. He goes, this is the symptoms of the disease. You are sick like that. This is generally the mood of a preacher. And Prabhupada exhibited it many times. He looked even sometimes he's angry. But even that was entirely controlled. So, and Prabhupada was Prabhupada was so many things, but he was very pragmatic, transcendentally pragmatic. There's an incident, installation of the deities in Amsterdam, which turned out to be a complete catastrophe from the beginning to the end. Nothing was properly prepared, the altar was collapsing. It was hilarious. And many people came, and Prabhupada was sitting on a Vyasasana, and he couldn't tolerate the collapsing altar. He came running from the Vyasasana, and he was helping, supporting it before they fixed it. That's all recorded. And he was directing devotees, and he said, how could you do this? And and he was completely kind of ignoring the public. Until one hippie, I think, he was very disturbed because he came to see a saint. And saint, according to the hippie terminology, was, probably he must have a long beard, and he sits on a Vyasasana and he goes, love and peace. That was generally the idea. They came like from from an assembling factory. One after saint after another came. Prabhupada said that's the biggest export article of India. Giggling gurus. And rice. He said these 2 things India is very good to export. Giggling gurus and rice. So Prabhupada was not like that. So this hippie got so disturbed. So finally in the middle of the action, he just stood up and he said, Swamiji, cool down and chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada was going, yes, you are right, thank you. And then he was sitting like Vyasasana chanting. It was amazing. From such a man to take an advice is ridiculous. Just not to run around this thing. Anyway, so, yeah. This was very impressive, to see that. So, Prabhupada was the embodiment of Radharani's mercy, and I could say one story, which is the only story I can say in this regard. Normally I don't. I am not the type of person who is interpreting that the sound I just heard, which was actually the squeaking of the door, that's Krishna's flute. I heard it. There are people who have this kind of perception. I am not one of them, okay? I just see the door squeaking, that's it. It has to be oiled. Simple. But when I was present at that moment in Bhaktivedanta Mene, when Srila Prabhupada was there, I got a view of Srimati Radharani, not me. Everybody present in a temple room. It was the same thing. Srila Prabhupada was brought. He couldn't, he was in a palanquin. It was actually a chair. It was turned into a palanquin. So they brought Srila Prabhupada in front of the deities for deity greeting. The curtain was still closed. And there was a kirtan going on. So finally the curtain went open. And there was, Bhaktivedanta Manidhara Krishna standing there. And all the devotees in the temple room were going, ah! It was like a sound, I remember that. Why? Because we all could see how Radharani opened more her eyes and bent a little bit forward looking at Srila Prabhupada. Everybody, I was thinking, you can see all kinds of things when you are a little bit hallucinated, but everybody saw the same thing. I remember devotees after, did you see this? Radharani opened the eyes and she was just looking at Prabhupada, like this. So that moment I never forgot, because that's probably the only time I saw something like that. Otherwise, don't expect me to tell you how the Gonita is dancing on the altar. I know they are dancing, but who is me to analyze that? Let them dance, and I always remember Prabhupada saying we should always act in a way not to try to see God, but we should act in a way that we are seen by God. Prabhupada trained us like that. He said, first serve, and then you deserve. Therefore, he never dwelt on these intimate issues, because he said, they will be revealed to you when you are qualified. Don't imagine them. Or you don't have to, squeeze yourself into the spiritual world, Here I am. No, it doesn't work like this. That was the beautiful thing associating with Srila Prabhupada. He was so natural. He was completely natural in a spiritual world. And we knew he is in a spiritual world. We were sometimes wondering, what is he doing with us here? We knew that parallel to his ISKCON management and all these activities he did, he had completely his own thing going on with Krishna. It's called activated devotional service. Whereby we are just the sadhana people, just trying, wake up, Artik, don't fall asleep in a lecture, that's us. Whereby Prabhupada, his actions were completely natural. Actually, he defined sadhana, I really like the definition. He said, this is a pushing thing. He said, it's like a car doesn't drive, you have to push. But it's not the way to drive a car, we know that. We don't see people running around pushing cars. It's just to start the car, so the engine can go and the car can drive on its own. So sadhana is just a push to get us going. And otherwise, when you get really going, you may continue with the sadhana as an example for others, but you don't need it. But, I cannot talk about this, I'm not on that level. Because I have to kick myself every day, obviously, so, hey, this is my, I would not call it spontaneous devotional service, I would call it kicking devotional service. That's what I have to do. If I don't kick, it starts to stop again. Very spontaneous. I think, my God, what a spontaneous love of Godhead. If I don't kick it, it starts to stop again. But real love of God, that's spontaneous. You don't have to, we have also experience in the material world. You don't have to tell people who fell in love that they have to love somebody. They are living it day and night. This is very easy. There's even a Vaishnava who is praying, let my devotional service be so spontaneous, like a love of a girl to a boy. It's very simple. You can watch it. You know, the girl sings Vaisi, Vaisi. And the boy sings Vaishi, Vaishi. And this is so spontaneous that if in whole Croatia there will be everybody gone, there will be only one boy and one girl, they will find each other. Don't worry. It's such a magnetism. It's just, they will find each other naturally. Scientists always try to analyze love. Actually, they are really crazy. They said they will develop a chemical formula for love. You inject it, you know, and then it's love. It will never happen. Because this is actually coming from the spiritual platform. These emotions, and there are many things in our lives. Prabhupada said it very clearly. Everybody wants to be loved and love somebody. Even the most cruel person. I remember there was once experiment in a worst jail in that country, somewhere in South America. You know, where all these mafiosos and crazy killers, you know, and these heavy people, you know, sit in these cells. So they said, maybe we will humanize them a little. So they gave a permission that every inmate, if he likes to, can have his private pet, an animal. So one got a small rabbit, another one got a bird in a cage, you know, and they were so loving to these pets. Killers, you know, people who killed people, you know, but they were like, my rabbit. Choo, 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 choo. How is that possible? Because everybody wants to love and be loved. Everybody wants to give. Even the most cruel mafiosi, he will be charitable. Yeah, I killed them all, I stole it all, but you can take here. We don't want to get too updated, but politicians are usually like they lie, they cheat, they steal, and then they go, come, I can also give something, I invite, and we can have, sure. So charity is not unknown, you know. We want to give, and we want to get. These necessities, they come actually from the soul. This is, you know, once again reflected into the material world, but they're actually originally spiritual. Therefore, they are so powerful. Can you imagine how powerful the spirit is? How powerful the spiritual world must be. When we already experience with such an intensity these perverted emotions, how must be the real one? How powerful must be? I mean, in the material world, love, you know, I know one very experienced lady once told me, falling in love should be forbidden by the police. That's an experienced woman talking, you know. It's a state of madness. You know, all rational, all gone. The man falls in love, all the other men go, no, not this one, are you crazy? I know, and she's known. You will get in trouble. And he goes, no. She is the chosen one. Opposite, it works the same way. You know, it's madness. It's so intense, but it's only a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Can you imagine how mad they are over there? They must be completely mad. And this is described, you know, these ecstasies by bona fide, by the Goswamis and this. They are completely mad. Gopis love Krishna so much, when he disappears, they go mad. They talk to flowers and they talk to stones and they are just, you know, and they play even Krishna. One plays the Krishna and another one plays Radha. And they are constantly in it. It's a complete state of madness. Somebody, you know, say, in the material world you find exceptional people, eccentric people. I mean, I'm coming from a generation of very eccentric people. That was called the 60s. Not only that, but the worst thing is that some of these eccentric people became devotees. And you think they changed? No, they didn't. But some of my godbrothers, I went on Sankirtan distributing books. What they exhibited of eccentric behavior in that service, if I would describe it to you, you think, oh, this is really a crazy movement, you know. Are you also mad? But it worked. We distributed many books. You know, I myself was rather modest, you know. I was distributing books in rather, you would call it modest way. You know, hello, and it's a nice book, and, you know. But there was a devotees who were distributing books like almost in a magic form. I remember one of my godbrother, he may come here too, you maybe know him. I can mention him, he is one of the can be very extreme, even in advanced age, I warn you. Pritu Prabhu. I was with him on Sankirtan. I mean, I remember we got a new edition of Nectar of Devotion in German. It got a brown cover, and inside it was a marble kind of, you know, colored. And he distributed the books on the street to people. He was going, this is outside like chocolate, inside like marzipan. And what does this to do with the book, you know? And people were going, how much does it cost? I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. You distribute the books like chocolate and marzipan or whatever. You know, it's mad, but it worked. You know, much of advertisement is like this. It's completely crazy, actually, when you look what they advertise comparatively to the product, you know, it's crazy. But, you know, it works. Oh, I can give you so many examples from that, you know. We always think, oh, we have to present Krishna consciousness in a rational form. That's true. But to whom? To completely irrational people. Because when you look what people do on the street and what's motivating them has nothing to do with rationality. They are motivated like, you know, by imagination. They think, oh, I have to get it, I will enjoy it. Really? Where's the enjoyment? When 1 million Czech tourists come to a Croatian coast in summer, where's the enjoyment? Look at it. The enjoyment is so intense that even the Czech police has to come to Croatia to control this. There's really enjoyment, you know. Yeah. Do you ever saw tourists really enjoying? It's disgusting. You know, for a normal person. But they think, no, I'm enjoying, I must enjoy here. I paid for it, you know, so I have to enjoy it out here. And when all the people try to enjoy it at once, it becomes like hell. This is usually like that. You try to swim in an ocean, nice ocean here, and there's a guy with a scooter, you know, no enjoyment. You try to be peaceful on a beach, somebody comes with a radio, you know, finished, no enjoyment. Everything is 5 times as expensive as anywhere else, of course. You know, all enjoyment finished. But they travel all the way down, and when they come back, they said, I was in Croatia, I was enjoying so much. It's all illusory forms. It doesn't exist. Did you ever enjoy being jammed on the way from Croatia in Austria on a highway? You stand there for 2 hours, you know, in the heat. That's really enjoyment. So, where's the enjoyment? And every step you find in this material world is a wrong idea. But they go for it over and over again they try. Well, it wasn't so good last year, but this year we are really going to do it, you know. How many frustrated men I met in my life, and how many frustrated women I met in my life, but they never let it go. Yeah, maybe the last one was not so good, but the next one, How many men told me the second one was much worse as the first one? And women too. And they go again. Such a faith, you know. Sometimes we thought on Sankirtan, if we would have such a faith in the process of Krishna consciousness, like they have a faith in a process of sense gratification, we will be all pure devotees. You know? Over and over they try. So how can we explain to them Krishna and Radha? Actually, this is not a secret. Srila Prabhupada was very hesitant to introduce Radha Krishna worship in ISKCON. He said, we have our Gaunitai, it's perfect. But he had a small Radha Krishna needs. So it was in an early stage. And he had to leave them, I think it was Australia or somewhere, he had to leave them in the care of the devotees. And he knew these devotees are not qualified for such a worship. So he prayed, Krishna, please, Radha, I have to keep on traveling. Give these people intelligence to take care of you. When he came back, he was surprised. They were worshipping very nicely. So he said, maybe. He was quite pushed. He was very hesitant, he said. And then he said something, I know this may sound controversial to some, but I'm just quoting. He said, we are not worshipping Radha Krishna. We are worshipping Lakshmi Narayan in form of Radha Krishna. That means majestic opulence, on reverence, reverentially. Radha Krishna worship in itself is spontaneous love of Godhead. Not a big paraphernalia even. It's like, I think it was Sanatana Goswami. Somebody gave him a deity of Krishna. So he was sitting under a tree, and his only purpose, he was actually told by Lord Chaitanya, you discover holy places and write books. So they were writing on these palm leaves, and they were living extremely simple. He was eating just some buttermilk, and then somebody gave him some flour and some water, so he made some dough, and he was this kind of chapati type, he was smashing it into a fire he made, into the ashes. So it got a little hot, it got a little bit baked. Then he offered it to Krishna. And he had no altar, so he tied the deity of Krishna in a tree, like that, up there. And then he was offering the so-called chapati. Up to the point Krishna was really protesting. Krishna said, you expect me to eat this? Couldn't you put at least salt on it? And Sanatana said, sorry, nobody brought the salt. I have no salt. You have to be happy with this. So Krishna was going, okay, then I will take that. This is spontaneous love of Godhead. When you really love somebody, let's say the husband really loves the wife, and she serves something which is burned a little bit. So the husband will not make a big thing of it. He goes, thank you, oh, this tastes so good, and he goes, and he waits until she goes in the kitchen and, maybe throws the rest out of the window. But he will not, because he doesn't want to harm that person. He loves the person. Even a small offering from such a person is most precious. Oh, this was given to me. This is very nice. I shouldn't maybe go this, but this is rasas, okay? When I was small, there was in Czechoslovakia, there was a short movie, which really, we didn't have a TV, I had to go to the neighbors to watch. But somehow they showed it's actually based on some English writer, some story. And it really caught my attention. It was a story of a girl and a boy. They liked each other and they wanted to give some present to each other, but they had no money. So the boy was thinking, the girl has such a beautiful long blonde hair. I want to buy her a beautiful brush, with a mirror to it like that. But how to get the money? So he found a place actually where they buy beards, because he had a beard. And So he cut off his beard and sold the beard. Someone was used the hair from the beard. And the girl was thinking, I want to buy the boy some beautiful paraphernalia for cultivating the beard. Kind of set. So she bought that. But how to get the money? So she sold her hair. And at the end, they got the paraphernalia and they met each other and there was no beard, there was no hair. And it's a short movie. And end up just with a scene how they are standing there with this paraphernalia looking at each other, just laughing. Because they loved each other anyway. This is originally transcendental. Unconditional love. In a material world, there is always a condition. Okay, I give so much. How much do you give? Huh? And then comes the inventory time. I gave so much, and you just gave this much. That's usually the end of the marriage. The inventory time. Yeah? This is not love. This is business. Prabhupada said in the material world, it's business. But real love, you just give and don't expect anything in return. And when it's mutually shared like this, it's endless. It's just upgrading. You want to give everything. And the other one wants to give even more everything. And it goes back and forth. Yeah, and when you are God, and you are His first, you could say, expansion, Radharani, how long you can play this? Forever. Endless. I give, so much, and because you are God, you are endlessly resourceful, so you just upgrade the whole thing. It's incredible, we cannot even imagine this, because here in the material world, we always run out of money. And however rich you are at the end finished. And it was somehow never enough. I met in my life also some very rich people. They were not very happy. They were not very happy. Rather, they were actually very miserable. Because when you have something, then you attract so much envy. And you have to be constantly on guard because there's somebody tries to steal it all the time. But when you have nothing, then you can happily sit on the street and going, oh, I wish you good luck. People know there's nothing to get. Fame is also like this. It's terrible to be famous. You just come around the corner and there's paparazzi, making photo. I met Ambarish Prabhu. This is one of the grandsons of Mr. Ford. I met him in India. He's a very nice devotee. Very, very, just by karma he ended up in this situation. And he told me, I came here to India, to Vrindavan. I get out of the airplane. It got known, Ford is on the airplane. He said, I come in Delhi out of the airport, I cannot even go to the toilet. There is photographs here, photograph there, interview, what will Ford invest in India or not, And he said, I came here just to chant Hare Krishna and I cannot get rid of these people. I'm miserable, So when he was joining the Hare Krishna movement, the Buddhists realized, we got Ford coming into the temple. They immediately came and going, Hare Krishna, please come in, Oh, you are Mr. Ford, very nice. We have different projects, and you could just give a donation, this and that. And he was completely annoyed. He said, I come here to check out the Hare Krishna and they ask me for money. I know this. Everybody is doing it. When Prabhupada heard it, he was alarmed. He said, immediately, stop, nobody talks to this man. I am the only one who will talk to him. And when Ambarish met Prabhupada was just talking about Krishna. just glorifying Krishna and all this, and like to anybody. And he was immediately, attracted. And then he said, well, this is so nice, and I could actually contribute, with some money. And Prabhupada said, money comes from Krishna, that will come on its own. And then he kept on talking about Krishna, He was impressed. That was the only time it happened. So and you see, he gave very recently, he just, by the way, financed the construction of the Mayapur temple. So, just by the way, So, this is spiritual love. No motivation, no expectation. And this is what we can learn from Radharani. Unconditional love for Krishna. And Krishna is so impressed, he goes, okay, I will not accept any service from anybody without their approval. So in one sense, we are all Radharani Bhaktas, because we depend on her mercy. But simultaneously, Prabhupada was cautious. Prabhupada even said, we are all sons of God. And son has no right to discuss the sex of his father. Not his business. That's actually Vedic culture. Not his business. So it's not our business, actually, to investigate into Krishna's romantic side. He has so many sides. So many sides that devotees were shocked. I remember when the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam was published, picture of Lord Nrsimhadev. Devotees asked Prabhupada, who is this? And Prabhupada said, Krishna. He said, but this is horrible. So blood and intestines here like a garland, and it's terrible. You came to Krishna consciousness, loving God, that's the Christian line, He loves us all. So, and love and peace, and chant Hare Krishna, and be loving and peaceful, and then you get this. Prabhupada said, no, but he looks furious. Prabhupada said, he's perfectly furious. Prabhupada said, this is beautiful. Because we interpret our own concept of what is beautiful, what is loving. And when it comes to Krishna and Radharani, we have to give it up. No our consideration. This is their thing. And we can just come, watch and worship. That's all. Govindam Haripurusham. That's it. We can just watch. And he's doing his things. Devotees, in the beginning, the hippies asked, they didn't even know how Krishna looks like. So they said, that's God. And Krishna said, yes. And they were hippies. So they were immediately interested. He has long hair. Because all hippies have a long hair. And he plays flute. All hippies play flute, Prabhupada said, yes, he has long hair. He plays flute, but he is not a hippie. That was the first instruction you got. So Prabhupada educated us gradually like that, and then, and they said, then who is that woman next to him? Prabhupada said, this is Radharani. And what is she doing there? Prabhupada said, his girlfriend. And then he looked and he said, it's not your girlfriend. And that I knew, that my girlfriend acts differently like that girlfriend. That had a practical experience of that already. So Prabhupada educated us constantly in that mood. This is Vishnu Tattva, this is God, worship, praise, but don't get mixed up with this. This is actually the point I would like to make today, because that's the point Prabhupada over and over made. And if somebody wants to know more about Radharani in more detail, they are God brothers, and they could tell you day and night something about Radharani. I'm absolutely not qualified to do this, I will not do that. So there's some questions maybe or points to that. You know me, I can overdo the time all the time. Hey, this is... The present Pujari was with me in Stockholm already. How many years? 30 years? 20?
33.
Huh?
33.
Yeah. We kind of know each other. Huh? What is the question?
Actually, it's not a question, but just one small request. I remember in 1993 in the Sankirtan flat when we was with the Lajan and Karaprita, you were giving the Sankirtan lecture. So you're giving one wonderful example, wonderful lila with Lord Nishingadev, how Prabhupada described when Nishingadev killed Kashipu, then he put so many devotees doesn't have this lila, doesn't know this lila, if you can just in a few words.
I remember even the town. I must have been around maybe 24 years old. I remember the town, we were sitting in a car, we just took the breakfast, and while we were eating, we were listening to Srila Prabhupada's lecture. And Prabhupada described how after Hiranyakashipu was killed, all this, Nishingadev was still very angry. His fury was so huge, nobody could cool him down. There's even a murti of Nishingadev practicing yoga to cool down. So nobody wanted to come close to him. All the demigods, and even Lakshmiji, his eternal consort of Narayan, they said, well, you are his eternal consort, please cool him down. And she said, no, I never saw him like this. I never saw him angry like this. So she was hesitant. So finally they came to Prahlad and they were going, Hali, he appeared because of you. So go and talk to him. And Prahlad was completely fearless. He took a garland and he wanted to garland Lord Nishingadev. And as soon as Nishingadev saw Prahlad, his mane, which was standing up with anger, just came down. And then Prabhupada, I remember that. Then Prabhupada said, and then Prahlad approached Nishingadev, and Nishingadev took his paw, this huge paw with the claws, and he put it on Prahlad's head. And he said, Prahlad, don't worry, I'm here, you are safe, nothing will happen to you. And Prabhupada said it with such a voice, and being in this, you could say, agitated, dangerous field of going out and distributing books, being constantly chased by German police and all this, I just looked around in that car and there was Sri Brahmachari sitting behind me and they were all crying. It was so reassuring. Because we are all fearful. We don't even know how fearful we are. We are constantly. Like I saw now the stormy rain coming in, I immediately got worried. Maybe the roof will fly again, because it was flying very recently, So I was going, we are constant because we don't know. We don't know what happens tonight. So there's a constant fear to lose something or what will happen and this. But when Krishna appears, when Lord Nishingadev appears, no more fear. I experienced such a moment first time as was Srila Prabhupada in the middle of Frankfurt airport when he landed in Germany. That's a long story, I don't know, we don't have much time, I cannot talk this, but I had to park the car and it was very chaotic, Prabhupada arriving, the whole airport was upside down. There was around 150 devotees in the airport turning vocabulary the airport upside down. I remember the security on the airport, they had this walkie-talkie running around, they were going, there's a problem here, Hare Krishna everywhere. And I remember one man, he just started to control the crowd of devotees and he was like, and devotees just took him and put him in a corner, and just, that was it, that was the end of the man, Because Prabhupada was here. Everybody was going crazy. You know, it was just sometimes Prabhupada is landing on airports. That was hilarious. Sometimes Prabhupada was still sitting in an airplane and the airplane slowly rolled towards the gate, you know. And then behind this huge glass wall, you saw 200 devotees just going completely nuts. And the people in the airplane, they look at this. They never saw in the airport such a thing happening. And then they noticed they are dressed like the man sitting next to me. And they, and they looked at Prabhupada and they asked him, there's something to do with you? These people there going completely nuts? And he said, yes, they came to welcome me. They like me. Just, the whole airport was finished. So it was Prabhupada's arrival. So in the middle of this house, I parked the car and I ran, and I came late. Prabhupada had they arranged for him a Vyasasan airport, VIP room. He gave a short lecture, but I just came at the end. That was the first time I saw Prabhupada. I was already 2 years out distributing books. And I remember exactly that moment. There was no airport. There was nothing. And I felt so safe and so completely free of fear. I could have died at that moment, no problem. And I realized my whole life I was afraid of something. To experience absolute freedom of fear, this was so liberating. I thought, Prabhupada is here, it doesn't matter what happens. The whole airport can blow up, I don't care. Everything is fine. Just by seeing Prabhupada, you felt like this. Prabhupada was so reassuring. Yes, don't worry. You are the right man for Krishna. Your place is already reserved. And everybody, even very mentally disturbed people, I saw it, were going, yes, yes, yes. I can do it. I can do it. So reassuring, so accommodating. That's how the Hare Krishna movement started. It's good to remember that. We cannot maybe copy it to such a degree, but we can at least try. To give people that feeling, this is for you. You also can do that. And we should become a living proof of that. I can boldly say, you see me sitting here, come on. You know who I really am? Some guy from Czechoslovakia, Unrecognized artist, I would say. There are so many unrecognized artists. Nobody. The only reason I can sit here and talk about Radharani, the most intimate consort of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is because of Prabhupada. You subtract Prabhupada, you got a total worthless man. That's what it is. How did we came here together at all, actually? I think you were also not born planning, when is Radhastami, I don't think so. We were all kinds of people, from all kinds of occupations, from all kinds of corners, being pushed by our karma here and there. And now we are sitting here, sharing Krishna consciousness. Who arranged for that? It was not my idea. It was actually not your idea. One day there will be a temple on a hill in Zagreb, Well, it was somebody's idea, but these ideas were inspired ultimately when you trace it back by Srila Prabhupada. Before that, people had some idea what bhakti is, so there were some ideas flying around, but it never took such a distinct shape. The Prabhupada is so unique. Even those who try to imitate him couldn't imitate him because if he wouldn't be here, there would be nothing to imitate. So even they are living on His mercy. Imitating. Me too, Prabhupada. Well, What would we know about Krishna? Krishna consciousness is, so far I know, not a part of Croatian history, I don't want to go now into Croatian history or Balkan history, but this place is quite known for either killing or being killed. That's generally what the history of this part of the world is. Constantly there was somebody, and when finally the local people came to peace, then the Turks came. There was constant killing going on here. I mean, basically the history of mankind is like that. I noticed when we're teaching us history in school, I said, this is getting really boring. And then he came and he killed him, and then he was killed, and then the next one came and he was killed too. And he was not killed, he was poisoned. And this is like the history of mankind. You think, this is very boring, This is just one big slaughter thing. And then everybody tries to, that's mine! Viva la France! Yeah, French. And then came the Germans, were going, no, Heil Hitler! And then there was no more Heil Hitler. And there was something else. In France now, you know what happens when you come to the French castle? They have many castles, You will find the Englishmen living inside because they were cheap to buy, so the English people are buying French castles. Here in this country, whoever claims I am this nationality and that nationality, come on. It was mixed up and raped each other, and it was the bloodlines are completely mixed up. It's not only Serbo-Croatian, it's Serbo-Turkish, it's so mixed up. And as if that wouldn't be enough, they started this immigration business. Well, that gets really mixed up. You come to Germany and the police comes, and police control. He's from Arabia, not a German, but he's from German police, But his father was still driving a camel in Arabia. So it's like, and when you want to really see a good multicultural mixed up, you have to come to ISKCON. Oh, that's really mixed up. I was living in a United Nations already before it practically existed. Prabhupada said, look, United Nation building, so many flags. We are United Nations and we have only one flag. Krishna's flag. He writes in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, you know that. Let there be only one mantra. Let there be only one God. Let there be only one. That's called unification. Outside of that, there will be no unification. Prabhupada said, forget it. You will never get it together. You shouldn't be racist, okay? Well, anybody who thinks he's the body must be a racist. My body and this is another body. And your body is not so important like my body. That's racism. I have a better body as you. In Krishna consciousness, we all come and go, what kind of body? Doesn't matter, we are all fools. In front of Krishna and Prabhupada, all fools. United fools. Here we are, waiting. Krishna, please save us. That's really unification. It's so, when we understand what Prabhupada gave us, then you wonder sometimes, why so many problems? They all come from the same department. Somebody down the line thinks he is the body. And he goes, well, I have a tilak. Oh, this is just painted, You can be very bodily conscious even with this on the head. That doesn't tell you one thing. I can paint this on a cow. Does it mean that she's very intelligent? Or not really, I mean, we like cows. So this is designations. And Prabhupada said this is Sarvapadi Nirmuktam. I think it's called free of designations. No designation. There's only one designation. Servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. Finished. And you end up where? Servant of the servant of the servant of Radharani. And that's it. And there's hierarchy. Oh, he is serving more than me. Well, then he's a leader. That's the hierarchy. He is serving more intensely, with greater love. Well, he is the leader. Not this designation business. I will not go more in detail, I get in trouble with this. But this is the essence. So we are all servants of Srimati Radharani, and by her mercy we can serve Krishna. And that mercy is reflected to us by the mercy of the Guru Parampara, ending out Srila Prabhupada and those who have nothing else to do as represent him purely. Some people might find it very restrictive and sectarian. No, it's actually big. Because Prabhupada showed us how everybody can serve Krishna, provided you want to. That we cannot change. If somebody says, no, I don't want to, what can you do? There's this famous joke. It was actually a cartoon in a newspaper where the man sits, at the fire and reads newspaper, and the wife comes in and goes, chant, chant. And he goes, can't. Prabhupada quoted that cartoon actually quite often. No, he doesn't want to. No, then you can do nothing. But the chance and the facilities for everybody there. Never before it was so open and so available like today. I'm too long. Thank you. Sorry, I have to end in here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.